Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Works Podcast. It's been a little bit. So, I'm going to jump into the movie review. I'm going to jump into our interview in just a little bit. But I wanted to quickly kind of go over what to expect from the Works going forward. So, I think for me, particularly after the election, I needed to kind of recoup and figure out exactly what I wanted to be doing. And I think there are going to be some changes on this podcast, whether it be who I decide to talk to or some of the topics that we're going to cover. I did want to kind of become a little more active in some of the bigger conversations going on because I can't pretend like I'm not affected. I am, and we need to talk about it. So, that's not to say that we're not going to be talking entertainment. We're definitely going to be talking entertainment. I'm very excited to continue talking to you about which movies that we're doing, or to continue talking to you about which movies that we're going to be reviewing and which topics I want to discuss, and entertainers in the area that are I'm going to get to talk to. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff coming, but I think that this is going to be a year of change, and I'm going to try some things that might not be expected of this podcast, and I think there's going to be changes down the line. I also think that as far as a consistency level, I'm not sure if that's going to change or not. It might. I'm still kind of working through some of the changes that we're going to be seeing here. But, I want this to be a community that, anything is up for discussion, and, any real art is reflective of the society that it lives in. So I think that for me, this is a podcast about art, and we're reflecting a time in society that is very unique, and there is a lot of difficult conversations to be had going forward that I think maybe we could have some of those conversations here. So, speaking of art reflecting society, I want to talk about Mickey 17, which just came out. Also, by the way, I do apologize that my webcam is a little bit broken and it keeps shifting in and out of focus. I'm getting a new one soon, so just bear with me on that. Just did it again. Doing it right now. Keeps doing it. We're working through it, okay? We're gonna get through it. So listen, I wanted to talk about Mickey 17, which just came out in theaters. This is from the visionary director behind The Host from 2006, Snowpiercer in 2012, and the Best Picture winner Parasite back in 2022, Bong Joon-ho. He's back in theaters with another wild and visually striking film. Mickey 17 stars Robert Pattinson as Mickey Barnes. In the future, there is a technology that has been developed which is basically able to clone people in a process called reprinting. A little over 4 years ago, Mickey and his buddy, Timu, played by Steven Yeun, needed to get off Earth very quickly. Timu found a job, and Mickey, without reading the paperwork, signed up to be an expendable. An expendable works highly dangerous jobs until they die, and they are then reprinted to go finish the mission. They will reprint somebody as many times as necessary until the job is finished. This includes being exposed to radiation, harmful alien pathogens, and being eaten alive. So, kind of like an Amazon job. Mickey and Timu are working for Kenneth Marshall, Mark Ruffalo, a failed politician with a devoted following and a space exploration company. Who might that sound like? The company is looking to colonize a white, very white, snow-covered planet inhabited by only the most pure human people they can find. Look, there is so much to say about Mickey 17. It's wildly original, it's fresh, and yet it's loaded with a lot of cine-literate references. I saw everything from Taxi Driver to The Thing. The crew feels very blue-collar, not so dissimilar to the crew flying the Nostromo and Alien. Pattinson, to the surprise of absolutely no one who has followed his career, is excellent. One of the things that makes Pattinson so engaging is how his characters feel like full creations, from altering the way he speaks to his physical mannerisms. Pattinson is just deep in character and nails it. It's going to be difficult to talk about Mark Ruffalo's character without juxtaposing him to our real-life president, but suffice to say, Ruffalo has taken a lot of inspiration from the current moment we're living through. His character, Kenneth Marshall, could also be compared to Jeff Bezos and potentially a myriad of other tech bros who consider themselves superior to the rest of society. He gives a very funny performance, coupled with his wife, Ilfa, played by Toni Collette. She's his right hand, but she steers her husband back on course whenever he derails into some random tangent. There is one scene in particular where Marshall and his wife have Mickey over for dinner and try to apologize to him for punishing him so harshly. And the scene goes so off the rails, so quick, and it's very funny. It's laugh out loud sort of material. It's both outrageous and shocking, and everyone in the scene has impeccable timing. You know, Ilfa's character seems very reminiscent of Tilda Swinton's character in Snowpiercer, but the whole scene really rests on the chemistry between Ruffalo and Pattinson. And Pattinson in particular here really is going all out, and it's just wildly entertaining. I mean, I keep going back to wild because, I mean, that's what the whole movie really feels like. The whole movie just feels kind of, well, wild. I would also be remiss if I didn't highlight the love story weaved in between this sci-fi adventure. Mickey's love interest is Nasha, played by Naomi Ackie. She's brilliant in this movie. She has a couple really great scenes in this. They also have great chemistry together. They look like a genuine couple. They mesh very well on screen together. Probably better than I might have expected. Very sensual and loving relationship that, you know, explores weird and kind of fun scenarios, including potentially having a threesome with your boyfriend and his clone. So, I mean, that's fun. Not gonna lie, I'd probably do that also. Especially if my boyfriend was Robert Pattinson. But look, Mickey 17 is the first great movie of the new year. I don't think it's going to be winning any significant awards next season, but I do think Mickey 17 is the type of film that you could come back to again and again and find new things to love about it. It is devastatingly cynical, it is outrageously funny, it is well shot, well acted, well directed, and most importantly, it is entertaining as hell. So that is my critics pick for this week. I highly recommend going to see Mickey 17. Also, something I talked about on the Long Islander podcast, which I still think is really worth your time, is Last Breath. Last Breath was done very well. It's a true story. I'm not going to talk about it in depth here, but I will say that I really liked it, and I think if you're doing a double feature this weekend, Last Breath and Mickey 17 are two really good films to go back to back with. So check that out, and we'll be right back with an extended interview with the band Bending Over Backwards and talking about their new album, Get On With It. So stay tuned. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell so you get all the notifications for us. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive write-ups and movie reviews that you can't get anywhere else. That's patreon.com/scareworks. You get all those exclusive stuff, plus behind the scenes and the latest projects I'm working on, and some upcoming stuff as well. Please be sure to check that out, and stay tuned. So, today on the program, we are joined by Bending Over Backwards. They're a rock band based out of New York, Long Island. I'm very excited to talk to this group. They currently have 2 EPs and an album out, available on all your streaming services. Their newest EP, which they're here to promote today, is Get On With It, a collection of really great 8 songs, and we're gonna do a deep dive on those today. It's gonna be really fun. If you haven't listened to it yet, be sure to check them out after this interview. Before we start, as always, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, hit the like and subscribe button down below. Follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and consider joining our Patreon to get exclusive early access to my content, including things that never hit YouTube or other streaming services. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Eddie Boroslawski, Dana B, and Dillon Bonné. Eddie's on guitar and vocals, Dana does bass and vocals, and Dillon does drums and percussion. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm I'm doing all right. This is this is the first episode of season 3 of the work, so it's kind
Oh
of
snap! Season 3 premiere featuring Bending Over Backwards. Awesome.
you guys are kicking us off this year. It's very exciting. So first off, you guys have a lot of work out there, and I'm curious, how long have you guys been playing together, and um, what kind of was the impetus for your band? Like, how did you guys kind of start?
All right, so yeah, we've been together for about 10 years now.
Longer, actually.
Technically, yeah,
Before
longer.
before Dillon, at least.
I was gonna say
But
it's mostly before me.
Well, yeah, as the lineup stands, it's been 10 years. Uh, but really, I guess like the start of B.O.B. was, yeah, I was in previous bands before this, and Dana, was learning bass at that point, so. I told her, I'm like, yeah, screw it.
Let's start a
let's
band.
do
Let's
our own
play.
thing.
Let's write some music together. Let's get a band going.
And at that time we were like between drummers and everything. And funny enough, I worked with Dillon at a grocery store before this, and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, we should jam sometime," and then he like
disappeared.
he quit that job.
Yeah.
Oh,
And funny enough, it was just like
years later.
He hit us up. He's like, "Yeah, let's like jam," and then it just instant connection. So that was really kind of like the
inception of the current lineup we have now.
you guys have a pretty big sound for a 3-person group. How has your sound evolved since like Narcissistic Optimist or Flying High?
So originally we were
a four-piece. We
band.
did have another guitar player, but
yeah.
he left in 2023, and we just decided to just proceed as a 3-piece and just keep doing what we were doing minus the second guitarist. And
that kind of like made us evolve our sound a little bit, because we wanted to do, if not the same, but like more with less.
Yeah, we've been experimenting a little bit with like down tuning.
Yeah, we tune half step down now.
And I've been kind of influencing Eddie to use more like pedals and stuff. I've been kind of, doing that.
I mean, I really like, as I was listening to it, I'm sitting there and it's like I'm hearing like elements of Black Sabbath and like other kind of influences along that genre. But then like randomly on your record, Get On With It, you have like a Merle Haggard cover. Like, where did you guys pull that one out of?
That was mostly Eddie.
That
Yeah,
was Eddie's
so-
That
idea.
was a long idea in the making.
So back in the day, I used to take guitar lessons with a guy. His name is Pete Mancini, another great guitarist of his own right. And he was telling me, because I love Social D and everything. He's like, yeah, if Social Distortion can do Ring of Fire, he's like, you guys should do like, and he sent me this song. He sent me Mama Tried. He's like, I could see you guys totally doing this. And yeah, I've always kind of had a love for like old school country. So, that kind of resonated with me too. And it took years of clawing and fighting to get Dana to agree with it.
Because I've listened to the original Merle Haggard recording, and I'm just like, I am not vibing with this. I do not like this at all. And then one day Eddie showed it. Like, what if I play it this way and start playing it like he usually does with how he did it on the record? I'm like, you know what? I'm down. It's very Social Distortion-esque. Let's give it a try. And people love it.
I'm just a fan of chaos. I'm here for any sharp left turns on an album. I'm like, I love this.
Well, it's funny. It was a sharp left turn, and yet it sounds pretty cohesive within the record itself. You do put your own spin on that song, which I thought was so interesting. I mean, I remember though, as I was going through your album and that song was coming up, I was like, huh, it's the same title as that Merle Haggard song. I wonder how, if there's a reference to it. And then I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh, it actually is. That was so unexpected, and it was kind of very exciting because I mean, Dana, maybe you don't like it, but I mean that's one of my favorite country songs. So it was very kind of cool to hear a new take on it and hear it being appreciated by a younger group. So I thought that was really cool. It was a nice way to diversify the album a bit.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you guys to record Get On With It? Because I mean it's about a 5-year gap between your last record.
Well, obviously COVID put a halt to things, and different a couple of us had, different job changes since then, so there was budget things going on, health related things, the departure of our rhythm guitarist, so we had, a lot of, things going on. And
But in good news, you two got married in
The wedding,
and
yeah.
we also got married too, so the wedding obviously put a halt to things as well, but
And I feel like it's the songwriting process too, because we'll start writing songs and then in practice we'll get random ideas, or I'll get a message from Dillon the day after. He's like, Ed, we have to ba 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 ba, and it's just
yeah, we'll change everything. Congress of Average Intelligence was kind of like that, where I had this riff idea, and then I tried to formulate it, but I hated how everything transitioned.
it was
It
slow.
was slow. I wanted to update it. We actually recorded everything with one producer, and we were pretty much done. But the more we listened to it, the quality just wasn't really there. And so
We weren't in love with it.
Yeah, it wasn't, which I don't want to release this.
Because when we listen to our recordings, if we're not obsessing over it, it is not good. If we don't feel excitement and hype for what we recorded, if it's not there, we decided to ultimately scrap that whole production and went with a completely different studio.
But funny enough, to answer the main part of it, it took us only 10 hours?
Yeah, 10 hours to
record
the entire album in one recording session from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m.
It was this studio in Brooklyn. We pretty much recorded all the instruments live, and then we just overdubbed the solos and the vocals, and then we just waited on the mixing and mastering, and that only took a few months?
A couple months, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, we'll get into it as we go, as we do the deeper dive into the songs today. But I mean, one thing I did really appreciate about your album too is you guys actually do have instrumentals on there. You do have a couple really good guitar solos on there. You have one of the songs, I forget which one, but it has a really good bass line from Dana on that. I'm curious, when I listen to a lot of the rock scene today, they just purposely don't add instrumentals in there. They literally construct the song with a place for a guitar solo, and then they just don't do one. And what do you think it is that bands are like so afraid to kind of express themselves in that way, and what made you guys kind of want to um do that? I mean, why did you guys make the effort to put in the guitar solos?
Well, I definitely think, yeah, as a guitarist, I feel that since most rock music today is more in like, the metal scene, I feel like that's more about like groove. So people are like really vibing with the groove of it, really vibing more with, like the breakdowns and all that. So I feel like that's like a time and place for that. But for us, it's kind of keeping really with that like original kind of like punk idea, but like not trying to overcomplicate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
me personally as a guitarist, I feel that the solo has to fit the song because if you look at like a lot of like, again, I'm gonna bring up metal here, but if you look at a lot of like the metal, it just seems like random notes and it doesn't seem like they're playing to fit the song.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be out of place if we just pulled out like a Van Halen, shred solo in the middle of our songs.
Yeah. As somebody like kind of in the metal scene, with my group, even though my group is weird,
Aw.
like I sat there for a long time and I was like, if I do a random shuffle on YouTube, all of the metal sounds the same. It's like they all are playing the same chord structures and like all of the breakdowns are the exact same. And it's
Mhm.
like I was just trying to sit there and I was just like, there's got to be a way to diversify this a little bit and like change this up because like everybody can't be hitting the same formula all at the same time. It starts to become muddy. So like again, going back to like, I really appreciate that you guys like, at least made the effort to like, try and diversify the sound and, bring in that cover and, do these instrumentals that are, for a relatively small band, pretty decent instrumentals. I mean, they're pretty good, So I mean, like, I give you guys a lot of credit for that because I mean, even bigger bands really don't seem to be doing that.
Thank you.
So quick question before we dive into the songs themselves, but the album is called Get On With It. And I'm just curious, what do we need to get on with? What is it?
I feel that well, first off, it's a Monty Python reference, just because.
If you see Monty Python and the Holy Grail, there's a whole
Well, I think even like through like the whole
throughout-
flying circus, they do it too.
I
Yeah,
think
I think
so.
like in between sketches and the movie and yeah.
we love Monty Python. It's one of those movies that like we can't figure out something to watch. Like we just go on to Netflix or whatever streaming service and just put on Holy Grail just for like background noise and just hang out, chill, and
It's a big comfort show for us.
and also Get On With It, I guess, is also kind of like symbolizes like from 2020 to
Yeah,
2025,
the
like
gap that we
now that
had,
things are
yeah.
gonna like let's get on with it already. Like it's been 5 years, let's go, come on.
Because we've been playing, certain songs from this album live for like even longer than we plan on recording and stuff. Like
Mhm.
even before we even finished the album. Like I think we had Couch for a while. We had Penne.
And
We had
Devils,
Devils,
yeah.
Yeah, we were playing that for a while. So it was just like, you know what? Fine, we're gonna just get on with
Get
it.
on with it. Let's
Just
write new
put it out
material.
there.
We're a three-piece now. Let's go.
Yeah.
I really like the attitude. That's fun. So, okay, you mentioned Penny to Chaz, which I believe was the first single you
The
had for this
opening, yeah,
album.
the opening track and the first single,
Mhm.
yes.
So, I really like this track. It's very fun. When I like actually like, sat there and like read along with the lyrics, I was laughing my but I mean like I was laughing a lot. It's such a ridiculous track. And I'm just curious, like, I mean, let me just say what at least my interpretation of the lyrics were. So I mean, we have this story of this guy Chaz who is very hungry, but he doesn't want a treat. He doesn't want chicken or meat. He wants pasta named after himself. So Chaz goes to the bottom of the ocean to find a box of pasta in a pirate's chest and is finally satisfied. Um,
Yup.
where did that come from?
You got it. I think I'll take the reins on this one.
Go for it.
This was Chaz was an old friend of ours for when I was in a other side project called Radium for a hot minute, and this was purely made out of like because he was the most insane man we've ever met, and there was a time we were hanging out at the
In the
in
yard.
our gazebo, and he just brought over boxes of pasta because he's just a total wild card. We didn't know what the hell, so we were all hanging out, having a good time, and I just thought like we should write a song about this, and it just came up with a concept out of nowhere, and it was just purely a fun, silly, fun, friendly track, and it was just so funny. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
because to compound on that is, when we were hanging out, we told people like, "Yeah, if you want to bring food, bring food."
That
And
was it. Yeah.
And he literally brought boxes of penne pasta.
just like
Raw
uncooked
pasta.
penne, and he ripped open the top of the box and just like poured it over his head. And he's like, "This pasta's crunchy, man." It's just like,
Yeah, no, dude was a total wild card.
Totally unhinged.
and like it's all in good fun because like I said, like or like Dylan said, he was our friend at the time, so
Yeah, so we
yeah,
thought,
it was all just like a yeah, like unhinged Chaz doing unhinged Chaz crap.
yeah, just good story, good fun time.
I feel like this song would be very fun live.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
People, the whole Penne de Chaz, making Penne de Chaz thing. People are like, storming the stage and getting up like that, and
Yeah.
it means the world to us that people have so much fun with it.
Yeah,
Which,
people
by
love
the
it.
way, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it, but how was your show last night? You guys
It
performed
was phenomenal,
It was pretty
flawless.
fun. It was pretty fun. It's
And,
probably the tightest we played live in like a while.
And
Since our album release show last month.
Yeah.
once again, too, it's, we love AMH. We love the new renovations. We love the whole new sound. Everything's, you've been to the new AMH, right?
like only in passing, like very, very briefly. I went there to check it out because I was actually interested in doing a show there myself, but like I haven't actually seen a show there yet.
But, the sound system is phenomenal now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The floor space is phenomenal. I love
It's
just
accessible. What I love the most is that it's accessible for people who are like physically disabled, that they have two new bathrooms that are completely accessible because the original bathrooms over by the bar, like there's a step and it's very cramped and small. So that's the main thing that I love about
I
the new
also love
AMH,
the new
accessibility
load-in, too.
and the load in from the back as
lot,
well.
Yeah, no, the whole design, the layout is just so much better.
And just the staff and the people are, absolutely phenomenal there, too.
Yup.
Song Before I Break. I'm gonna go through each one of these songs, I think, pretty much, because I
Yeah.
I
love that.
went through all of them. So like, Before I Break, definitely a more serious song than Penny to Chaz. And it kind of, expresses this kind of like frustrated exhaustion of like working these jobs that are basically akin to like an endurance test. Um, how do you approach talking about social issues in a track like this? Because I mean, um you balance going from silly in something like Penny to Chaz to something like this pretty well. And I'm curious, like, when you're writing a song like this, do you approach it differently?
Yeah, since it was really about like especially like working during COVID, being one of the essential employees, it's really taking all of that frustration with, how like systems that like, work would treat you, how especially if you're like retail facing, like I think most of us were at that point.
Yeah. You have
It,
you have a great, so sorry to interrupt you, but you have that great line in verse 2, which is essential hero on the front line, can't escape my own mind, and I
Yup.
think
yeah.
like going back to what you were saying, I mean, this definitely feels kind of like a post lockdown record in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And I think even like you were saying about like approaching the album when you went to go record it was kind of like get on with it, like let's move past the pandemic. So I mean, I definitely picked up on that in the lyrics. um really really quick, and I'll let you go back to it.
Yeah.
Um This song kind of reminded me of like Suicidal Tendencies. I don't know if you ever heard those guys before.
Oh,
Oh
we love
yeah.
suicidal
Yeah,
tendencies.
great.
When I heard this, it was kind of like it's definitely one of the heavier tracks on this album, and I was also wondering like when do you know it's time to like start growling in a song?
I mean, for me, that's usually most of the time.
There's never a wrong time for it.
But it just definitely comes out, especially when you're recording it. For me, it's just kind of I let that mindset just like take over, and I let myself be able to feel how the song needs to feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You put yourself in that moment. You gotta bring that, all the feelings building up to it, out of you.
Especially too, when before I break, funny thing, because at the end I scream "fuck."
Yes.
That wasn't written in the lyrics. That was just a pure like me in the studio, and when I did it, I saw like in the other room, Dana and Dillon just like doubled over from laughter, like on the
Because we weren't
couch.
expecting that. All of a sudden, he just randomly screams, fuck! I'm like, whoa.
It's so unexpected, but it was just perfectly timed and just fit the vibe.
It
And I'm
fits
like,
the frustration of
we gotta keep it.
dealing with all the bullshit. And
Like that's kind of like the biggest example of just like you know letting yourself kind of be that vessel for the song and just being like, yeah, I'm pissed off. Fuck it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys certainly stay pissed off going into Kiss of Darwin. Um, which
oh, yes.
um, I gotta say, might be a serious song, but it's also kind of funny. Like I was definitely like kind of getting a kick out of the lyrics, probably because I think I, I mean, could be wrong, but I think I agree with you where you're coming from. So I mean, granted, you keep it pretty vague, which I think is the right thing, but I mean, like, what what inspired Kiss of Darwin? Because I mean, it's a pretty unflinching and brutal look at dumb people.
People watching inspired Kiss of Darwin. Like
oh,
whether it's in person or we'd be on YouTube and we watch like fail compilations, just be like, what are these people doing?
but more too, I think the like idea for Kiss of Darwin came when I think it was like around like the holidays, so like Black Friday and everything.
Mm.
And I think we were just trying to go to Guitar Center for something, and you probably experienced this driving too. Just like the people like at the crosswalk, and they're just like kind of deer in the headlights. Even though you stop, people are just kind of like,
Yeah. Like they're just scared,
look.
unsure of anything, and they're just like, "Well, why are you in the middle of the road if you're that like, unaware of where you are?
In
Just check
in
that."
my town, I live in like Greenlawn and
Okay.
and Huntington area, and everybody in this town, I call them the ketamine Karens.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's like they snort a horse tranquilizer before they get behind the wheel of their car. It's like I don't understand, guys. Like just drive. Like I don't get it.
Right.
Um, so funny. I really like this track. It's definitely a rager. Um, you have like lines in here like blissfully numb to your own decayed mind. I'm curious, like who writes the lyrics, or do you all write together?
So
It's mostly Eddie.
Eddie, they singled you out there.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, I come up with like the basic like premise, I feel like, but then like I'll take it to everyone and just be like, what do you think of this? And then like that's kind of like what takes the longest with like the recording process too, is like we'll have a song and then we'll like change something and then we'll be like, oh, I don't like that, like let's change this, and then like
Too many syllables in this verse here, and
Yeah, it's mostly trying to construct and make sure the lyrics flow with like the rhythm more or less, and that's our biggest you know,
yeah, so like
tedious process.
yeah, like we'll all have like song ideas, but then we'll all like kind of like come together in practice, and then like even like without like actually like picking up the instruments, like we'll sit up here and we'll like go over the lyrics and we'll be like, like does that work? Do we need to like change this? And we'll like
Hmm.
kind of go
Yeah, just
through.
brain work it, brain shop it a bit, workshop, whatever. Can't talk.
Brain shop.
Can't talk today.
Curious, like, being that you don't name anybody specifically, has one of the idiots come up to you thinking that you were singing about somebody else?
You know,
No,
like
I don't think so.
especially if you're talking like Kiss of Darwin, it's more just
It's more of a general.
yeah,
The
it's more
general
of a
public
general
of
public kind of
It's
thing.
not
people
really.
who don't have any common sense.
Yeah, no one really spearheaded the idea. It was mostly just living around
People
and
watching.
just very, very anonymous sort of situations.
Hearing people like talk about like drunk drivers
Yeah.
and those dumb kids doing those stupid challenges, like
Yeah.
eating Tide Pods and
Yeah, very very situational.
putting like fireworks in their pants or just like
You know, so
like
like
what were they thinking?
Kiss of Darwin is definitely more of like a generic like you kind of look around and you realize that what's the phrase there? It's like half the people aren't as bright as like you think or like what something like that.
Or play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, mess around, find out kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I think I know the saying that you were thinking of. Like half the people aren't bright and half of them are even less bright than that or something like
That's
that.
it. That's
You
it.
got
Yeah.
it. You nailed it.
Yeah, I get that. I feel that every day.
Mhm.
So moving on to the next song, which is, it's funny. I didn't have too many questions about this song, but it is one of my favorites off your album, which was House of Strays. Um, I I don't know if I interpreted the lyrics the right way, but the way that I interpreted them was like I lived for a long time with somebody with bipolar disorder, and when I was kind of like following along with the lyrics, it just kind of felt very um similar to kind of dealing with that type of relationship. I'm wondering like who or what inspired this song?
Honestly, a lot of people come to me with like for like relationship issues, whether it's a romantic relationship or like a toxic relationship with like a family member or bosses, and it's just us pretty much just interpreting what it's like to deal with somebody who's very narcissistic and likes
Very
to
very toxic
people
type
who don't
people,
know how
yeah.
to apologize,
Mm.
somebody who like who or like they meet somebody and they bring in like this person thinking that they could fix them but they can't,
Yeah, little unrealistic standards,
like the people like because like Eddie and I have been married for 3 years and together for 16, so we don't know what the dating scene is like, and people have told me actual horror stories of people that they met on Tinder or they met like once and thinking they were like their soulmate, but then they turn into a completely toxic, hateful, narcissistic, selfish things, and I'm just like, this is some good material for music, and based on the things that our friends have told us,
Yeah,
it
so
clicked.
again,
a lot of horror stories.
it's definitely one of those things where it's, vague enough that like people can get it, but it's
Yeah.
also like oddly specific in a sort of way where it's
Yeah, it's very broad.
like like you said, like you can relate to it because you've like
You've known
been in
somebody
those
who's been like that.
situations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a great track. It's definitely if anybody watching or listening to this hasn't listened to it yet, this is definitely one of the tracks I recommend. Also, the next track is also one of the ones I recommend, which was "Get Me to the Couch," which I believe was your second single for this record. Dana, your bass line is great on this track.
Thank you.
I'm curious, like, how, I mean, I know you guys said you recorded this record pretty quickly, but how long did it take to come up with that bass line? Because I think it's like it's groovy.
Eddie actually helped me with that one because you see, the chorus riff is like from it's an E to the B to the G to the A, and I'm like, I want to like spice it up somehow, like add like little extra notes here and there. So Eddie's like, here, try it this way, and I'm like, and I put my own little spin on it, and it's groovy. It's really really groovy.
This is your second most streamed song on the album, at least according to YouTube Music.
And
And
it's also the fan favorite when we play it live as well.
I bet. I mean, like, I'm curious, like, why do you think it strikes such a chord with people?
Because it's very like the rhythm in is very danceable. Like whenever I'm on stage, I do like these little kicks, and so people do kick lines. Last night they did a conga line. They actually did a conga line while I was down there dancing along, and
I hope there was a picture of
it's a
that.
party song.
I feel like it's mostly just like the right BPM, the right groove, the tone, just everything
The
about
catchy
it.
melody.
It's a very good like headbanging kind of thing, just very dirty, and it's just like people it's really easy to like get into, and it's like oh that was unexpected because a lot of our other tracks are very like
Fast paced
stuff.
and
So it's very unexpected, and people are like oh wait we're doing this now?
like, whoa, this
Okay,
is
like,
really
oh.
groovy compared to the really
Yeah.
angry, loud, fast punk songs that they've done in the past.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, I feel for us just to get into it.
So I'm curious, like, when you listen to the album as a whole, like, I feel like it has a good progression of the songs. And especially like getting into Get Me Onto the Couch, the bass line really like does change up the like the progression of the album, but it fits like really beautifully. I'm curious, like when you're making an album, do you go song by song, or do you like make the album as like a one whole piece? In the sense that like how do you approach it as like is it like something that is meant to be listened to in one long stream, or is it okay like to listen to each song individually?
I definitely think like both. You can listen to each one individually, but like we don't exactly go in planning like the entire album front to back.
Yeah,
Is
I think it's mostly goes back to practice where we pretty much construct very impulsively like new songs, and then we just
keyword impulsively.
so it's just just a collection of songs we've made in that time frame, and then we just wrap it up in the album and just send it out there like in one contained thing. So we don't be like it's not Pink Floyd where we have a concept and it's like oh let's make songs with this in mind. It's just a matter of hey that's a good song and then we just put it together.
But I definitely think that's part of the process too. Is we will sit with each of the songs and we'll say like, okay, what's the first track, what's the second track, what's the third track, and we'll try to make the album kind of flow in a way that is a little bit more cohesive.
Yeah, it's mostly we organize it after the fact that everything's recorded rather than going to it.
So going to the next song, I think actually the next song is my favorite, but I think that's just because like I'm a political nerd. But do we need to take a break? Is Eddie stepping away?
Oh no, we're okay. We're just
Okay.
He just stepped out for a sec, but Congress.
So Congress of Average Intelligence, hilarious name. So I really like this track. A lot of my own music is very political in that sense. I'm curious, like, first off, like going back to kind of like how do you approach the song? I mean, obviously this one is less, vague and it's kind of more pointed to a specific group. What was kind of the inspiration for this song? And do you like when you're writing music, do you like kind of pushing the boundaries and trying to provoke?
Uh, we generally don't really try to provoke. We're generally trying to just make music that's fun to listen to and that people will enjoy. It's just kind of like a self-expression kind of thing. We don't really go trying to change anyone's mind or trying to, make a statement in general. But the whole concept of this song, I was doom scrolling, I think it was either Facebook or Instagram one day, and this was like years ago where I forget what group it was, but they pretty much determined where Elon Musk had average intelligence, and, like he wasn't some big wig, genius that everyone thought he was, and just that term, average intelligence, like the Congress has decided or whatever, and I was just like, we could really use that, and then it just snowballed from there, and tried to make it, people in power, not as important or uh, you know, above anyone else that you really think they are.
But before I go to the next line, I just wanted to say like this song also has I think my favorite guitar solo on the record. So nice job on that one, Eddie.
Thank you.
I really like it rocks. I feel like, whenever you see like these political tracks, I feel like they're usually like less listened because people like get afraid that they're gonna like,
Mhm.
get politicized by something. But I mean, I think this track really rocks, and like it's definitely worth a listen. And it's also like, again, going to the lyrics, I do think they're pretty poignant. I mean, the chorus on this, which is the smartest sellers have the dumbest buyers, can't be fooled by pathological liars. The smartest sellers have the dumbest buyers. Hooked you in, I could see your wires. Tell us how you really feel. Uh, I think this kind of also relates to Kiss of Darwin. I'm wondering, like, um, do you make these like in conjunction with each other? Like, did these songs come at a similar time?
I think they were kind of
I
constructed
kind of,
around the same.
yeah,
Yeah, because
because
both of those songs we took apart and edited multiple times because even Kiss of Darwin had like it was a completely different riff from the beginning. Like we had to change this, and then with the Congress, it was a lot slower. It was the riff was different. But they're like, no, let's pick up the pace and let's invert the chords from this to that. Like we took apart and put it back together so many times at the same time. So there's a bit of similarities between the two.
Yeah, I was a bit of a picky, neurotic with Congress of Average Intelligence because it was kind of like my first real project in the songwriting process. So I was very like determined to make it, what I felt like it needed. And I was so glad they were so patient with me, because it could have just been totally scrapped. I'm so glad I made it.
But the results are so good. It's like I said, it's such a rockin' track, and like again, like anybody listening right now who hasn't heard it yet, go give it a stream because it's really fun. Um, we already talked about Mama Tried. I still like can't believe that you guys covered that. I'm like, I literally have in my notes here covering Merle Haggard. Excuse me, like what? I'm so glad that you guys did that. The first time I heard Mama Tried was actually in that movie The Strangers. I don't know if you guys ever saw that
yes,
movie.
yes.
No, I have not.
Is it that horror movie?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
horror movie about a home invasion, and like literally there's a scene, like very frightening scene where this guy is like literally walking into their home and the record skips on the Merle Haggard song. And it's like it's just a great scene, and I ever since I saw that movie, like that song kind of got stuck in my head, and I always loved it since then.
Cool.
So I mean, I won't dive too deeply into that one just because I mean it's a pretty popular song, and we already kind of talked about it a little bit. So I mean that brings us to Devils Like Us, which is your final track on this record. Um, so I'm curious, like when you get to the end of this record, what do you want people to take away from the album?
I mean, I definitely think that kind of the unifying theme overall is, you know, despite all the bullshit that people, face in like their day-to-day lives, whether it's, like bullshit with politics, whether it's bullshit with
Your job.
your jobs, whether it's, just random people, you know, or just like toxic people, like, if we're going back to like House of Strays and stuff like that, it's, despite all of that, you're gonna be okay at the end of the day. Like, is uh, kind of to harken back a little bit to a previous release, with oh my god,
Hmm.
what's the
Not
song?
narcissistic. What?
Narcissistic Optimist?
I think Narcissistic,
Like human garbage or
Family Ties.
Family
Yes,
Ties.
yes.
Oh wow,
Sorry.
that's
Yeah.
a deep cut.
Yeah, it's just like going, kind of like harkening back to that too. Is like, despite all the bullshit that you might have to deal with, like on a day-to-day basis, is as long as you have like
Your core
your
people.
core people, your friends, your
Your
family,
support group.
Mm.
because that's the other thing that we say on stage all the time is this band is more than just a band, you know. It's not just a bunch of like slack-jawed idiots playing
Like
music
we're like
together.
legitimate family. Like we hang out all the time when the holidays come around, like our birthdays, like we make sure that we take good care of each other.
I mean, like obviously, despite the whole, like marriage thing, let's say, Dillon's our brother. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Little
look,
brother I never
you
had.
guys have to be close if you guys have been playing for 10 years.
yeah.
I mean,
Like we've gone on vacations together. Like we went down to South Carolina, and then like like a few months later, we went up to Salem, and we like three of us have just been like the three-headed monster essentially.
The yearly trip to Salem.
Yeah, it's great.
very witchy.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
So I'm curious. Actually, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So like, do you have any plans for a record coming up? Do you have any concerts coming up?
Our next show is March 28th at Mr. Beery's with the band The Going Rate and more bands TBA.
Okay.
And I believe that we are planning on releasing a single in the near distant future for a brand new song that we've only played live like a few handful of times.
Yeah, we got a couple more in the works.
Couple
I
other
was
songs
gonna
in the works.
say-
We have another
We might
like
have-
EP that we're currently writing, working on.
And it definitely won't take 5 years.
No.
It'll be a lot sooner.
Don't make me wait because I like you guys. I wanna, and please come back on the show when that comes out.
Yeah,
Oh, hell
definitely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Happy on it. So any final thoughts you want to give the audience before we depart?
We wouldn't be where we are without all the support, and whether it's in person or it's on social media, is just the idea of just anybody tagging us in their socials, whether it's a song or if it's a clip of us playing, just the fact that anybody's paying attention to our music at all. Words, there are not enough words in the English language to describe how grateful and appreciative and humbled we are by all of you, and we love you all for it.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Be sure to check out Get On With It, along with their other records. Now you got me saying Flying High. Flying High and Narcissistic Optimist. Check them out on March 28th. I will link that show if there's tickets available to it in the description. Guys, thank you for being on The Works. You guys
Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
so much, man.
Yeah, of course.